Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. If you want to put in the chat where you're watching from, one of us will put it up on screen. But the main story we'll be covering are the fires in Georgia and Florida. And then we're also going to touch on the, I guess, changing of the climate in the Middle East, namely Iran, because there have been some pretty drastic changes down there. And we'll speculate on what's going on, what's causing those changes. So, yeah, so we'll talk about like the legal implications. We'll be covering how droughts led to the wildfires in Georgia and Florida, and how droughts can be created using radar, which has also been claimed by Iran to be responsible for their own 40-year drought, which just ended after the destruction of US radars in the region. So we'll cover that towards the end. So stick around for that. But should we get started, Shane, on the US fires?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. So hello, everyone. I'm showing my face today to prove that I am real.
Oh, sorry. Right. I forgot to introduce you.
That's okay. They can see that I'm here actually this time. So I am on camera. I'm real. I'm not artificially generated. Okay. So we have fires in Georgia. This is what it looked like as over 50,000 acres burned among two major fires in Georgia. And then there's also a fire in Florida that is close to 10,000 acres that could be threatening Miami soon. All right, so we're going to start with these fires. I'm just going to show the fire stats all at once, and then I'm going to show all the damage stuff. I'm not going to separate the fires. All right, so the first one I want to cover is the Highway 82 fire. This one is over 22,000 acres, and this one occurred in the Brantley County area of southeastern Georgia. What's significant about this one is that it has a lot of population. I think this one here says over 880 people live within like the fire burn zone, and there's over 120 homes that have been destroyed. There's also the Pineland Road fire, which is over 32,000 acres, I believe maybe 33,000 acres now. And this one also has some population. Let's see here. Yeah, here's the population, which is about 60 to 70 people live in this area. I think there might be maybe 15 to 20 homes impacted here as well. And then we also have the Highway 41 fire just west of Miami. This started out burning to the southwest, but now the wind has shifted and it's starting to blow towards the Sweetwater community of Miami. Thankfully, this fire is gaining containment. It might now be close to about 50% containment, and the winds are very low. So it looks like they should have no problem keeping this from reaching the town. So hopefully we'll keep an eye on this and they'll get it under control. All right. And then that's just another picture of that. All right. So that's all the fire statistics that we had to go over. And now I'm going to talk about some of the, I guess, what we would call anomalies. One of the things I want to mention real quick that's not fire damage related is that there was spotty alerts. We've seen this several times in other fires, and they said that some people were getting alerts and some people were not. And so as a result, the community once again had to like help inform and rescue their neighbors. All right. So now we'll go into some of the like fire behavior and the damage aftermath. I guess I will start with some of the news headlines. We'll play a couple clips from that.
Thousands of acres of Georgia and Florida are charred or still burning tonight as wildfires continue to menace the southeast. Dozens of fires in all dotting both sides of the Florida-Georgia line. The embers spread by high winds and the smoke now draped over Atlanta. Hundreds of people have evacuated, some not sure whether their homes are still there at this hour. More than 50 homes have already burned, according to authorities. And the Brantley County manager says it's a miracle no one has died.
Wow, I just saw that comment. Over 1,000 homes burned in Georgia now. So that's absolutely insane. Last I heard, it was 120.
Is that the one, the data center one?
Well, it turns out they might all be the data center ones because Brantley County, Clinch County, and even Irwin counties all have plans for data centers, and they were all also impacted in the last month or so with
Okay.
fires. All right, and now as far as the damaging fire, the let's see, it's the Highway 82 fire, which is the one that seems to be the most damaging fire. I believe that's the one they said was caused by a balloon that hit power lines. So I'm going to go ahead and play that clip now as well.
I want to show you this car lot, more than 100 older cars, and it's a total loss. Every day is a wild card with these wildfires, which have already burned more homes than any fire in Georgia history.
New fires sparked overnight. Walls of flame shot 50 feet high. 120 homes gone in 2 wildfires. This calamity had a random spark.
We believe it was started by a balloon landing on a power line causing the arc that created the fire.
That fire took Anna and Scott Dudik's house. We met Jesse Morgan at his ravaged automotive business. He started it in 1996, 30 years, up in flames. He told us his insurance denied his claim. Acts of God aren't covered.
Okay, so yeah, I find it unlikely that a sparked fire from a balloon would cause all that damage. It's possible that you could have like a single point ignition that way, but we're going to look into the fire behavior and we're going to show how there's almost no way that that could have been caused by a single balloon.
I think that's the first as far as an excuse. Balloon
Um,
power line, haven't heard that one.
yeah, that
Yeah.
is a new one. Yeah, I don't think I've heard that one before. Okay, so now we're going to look a little bit more of the damage. They did actually allow some of the people back in to like look at their homes, and one of which was Brittany Quinn, who actually got some of the footage of the damage from her property as well.
My house is gone.
So the one thing that stuck out to me was that mostly the structures were destroyed, but the trees and even the leaves were intact in that footage. And I have some more footage of this property. And you can see this is actually earlier on when they got there and it was actually still burning. I didn't include the audio, but the audio does remark about how there are no firefighters on scene trying to put these flames out. So it does look like in a lot of cases, the firefighters were not present. And again, you can see all the leaves are still intact on the trees. This fire doesn't look like it was more than just a few feet tall, if that. Yet it damaged all the structures and all of the cars as well.
Yeah, it looks pretty rural, like houses would be far apart.
I
I'm
do
not
believe,
familiar.
yeah.
looks
So
like-
this is, yeah, I believe this is on the west side of Waynesville, which is sort of a rural town, but this is also one of the more rural areas outside of that town. And yeah, you could see just how damaged all of the metal and the structures and everything were, but the trees were relatively intact.
Yeah, it looks like there might have been some like farming equipment too. So maybe some farming going on
Hmm.
in this area.
Yeah. And then there was also like a bunch of cars. There was a car lot. I think this was probably like a repair shop, actually, where he had a bunch of cars parked. And you can see the damage on all the cars. There's a lot of rust, actually. And I will point that out in a few still images as well. And yeah, so this is the car repair shop, and you can see just how completely these cars are destroyed. The glass is melted out. That's a sheet and post trailer in the back. I will show another version of that, but look how rusted everything was. You know, if this is a car dealership or a car repair shop, you wouldn't expect all those cars to be in that rusted condition. I bet almost all of them had fresh paint. So yeah, that's an insane amount of rust for just, a few days.
And that's an indication of the word electrolysis.
Yeah, I do believe that electrolysis is the most plausible explanation for the rapid oxidation of those metals. Normally, it would take months of weathering to reach that state of oxidation, but we've seen many fires where this happens within hours. And to me, that is a sign of electrolysis, possibly from some sort of directed energy.
Right. Or an electrical fire.
Or some sort of electrical
Versus
flow. Yeah.
combustible.
Yeah, it does look like there was a large amount of electricity subject to those metals to cause them to oxidize like that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And then we have a little bit more footage. I wanted to point out the bush in front of this side-by-side, like, or four-wheeler, as they call them. You can see the bushes all around. The leaves are intact, but the vehicle was completely destroyed. And we do see a lot of metals that are kind of warped and twisted, in addition to the rapid oxidation as well. Okay, so that's all of the video footage that we have, but I'm going to go through some of the images of the fire anomalies as well. So this is a four-wheeler that has been burned up, but you can see a puddle of aluminum right in front of it, and I do believe that is actually the engine block, because this one actually has steel rims, it looks like, and the majority of the aluminum was probably contained in the engine block itself. We also have the steel frame of what looks like a mobile home or a coach or something. And these are I-beams that the floor is made out of. These are steel I-beams. Some of them have drooped and warped a little bit. And we often will even see them get a slight twist to them as well. And then this is another one of those sheet and post trailers. It's called that because it has aluminum sheets on top of steel posts. And the aluminum sheeting is almost completely gone. We only see a little bit of what looks like some textured aluminum there, which was probably thicker than the original aluminum sheet that went the rest of the way around. So yeah, the aluminum was completely destroyed, and it does take 1200 plus degrees to melt aluminum like that. All right, and then this car has leaves around it that are intact. The leaves do look brown and dried out, but they haven't actually combusted. And then we see something hanging from the passenger door window there, and it might actually be the glass itself that is in a melted condition. And it does take 2,500 degrees to melt, 2,500 Fahrenheit to melt glass. And the hottest wood doesn't burn up past like 1472. All right. And then here's a still image of that side-by-side or four-wheeler with the leaves in front of it. If this entire area was on fire from the ground up, enough to burn up the vehicle, it should have also burned those leaves as well. And then here, we not only have more leaves that are intact, but what really strikes me is the color of the ash on the ground. It's a very light color, almost white, and that indicates that it was a very high heat that perhaps bypassed the combustion process altogether. Because when you have combustion, you end up with a more gray or black soot carbon, and this doesn't look like that. This looks like it was heated without having actually combusted.
And I wanted to point out, these are mainstream images, right?
Yeah, these are images you can find on the, yeah, they're all over the place.
They look, that one looks filtered. I'm almost sure that's filtered. This one looks filtered too. Cause I do this. This one looks filtered, like a sepia type.
Yeah, it does look like it has that sepia type filter. And that could be perhaps to hide the green of the leaves. I'm not really sure why they would do that, because the green doesn't stick out as much from the brown and black when they do that. Okay. All right. And then this is a truck that's underneath a tree that still has its leaves. And if this truck was burned up that much, you would expect it to have also ignited the leaves. And the structure to the left is also mostly destroyed. And the only paint that seems to have retained its color is the red paint in this image. All right. And then here's another image of the Quinn's property. Their home was actually located on the left, right between these two cars. In that gap there is where the home was. And you can see pretty much all around it, we have trees that are still intact with their leaves, which is also an anomaly. Combustive flame just doesn't do that. All right. And then this is another image of the Quinn's property. You can see how, the area that burned up was mostly contained to the ground level, and it didn't really reach more than, I would say, 6 or 8 feet at the most. All right. And then here we have what I would say is the most rusted barrel that I have seen in a while. We do see things that will rust out very quickly. Now, I can't say if this rust all occurred during the fire or if it was already rusted to begin with, but we have seen this level of rust that occurs like during a fire within a matter of hours. Here's another car that's rusted out and the windows are missing. I cannot verify on this particular car if the windows are just simply broken or if they also melted. And then here is the twisted frame What really sticks out to me here is these I-beams. These are steel beams that have a little bit of warping and drooping to them, and it would take close to 3,000 degrees to do that. And wildfire typically does not reach over 1470. Okay, and then here's another car with the glass. It looks like this is that same car with something draped over the window, which I do believe is the glass that had partially melted and then cooled. All right, and then we have another fence post that has these weird classic burn patterns that seem to happen where the fasteners or the staples or the bolts are at. And usually the bigger the bolt, the more the burning, and the more wire wraps, the more the burning we will see too. As if there was some sort of electromagnetic induction taking place where electromagnetic waves were being converted into eddy currents by the metals, which would cause resistive joule heating to cause the metals to heat up almost like an heating element in the toaster oven. All right, and then this is the white ash footprint that's left behind. This is in Brantley County. And in the right picture, you can see that there are a number of trees around these properties that did not burn. Although on the left, you can see that some of these trees actually did burn about halfway up. All right, and so that's probably all I have for the damage anomalies. But then we're going to go into some of the logistical anomalies as well, unless Tracy had wanted to revisit anything.
No, I was looking at the chat, but
Okay.
okay, so you're gonna go into like the social, like kind of what went on,
Yeah.
political environment. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to bring up is that there was a local resident named Michael Gibson who was originally told that he could go back to get some of his things. He was staying with his cousin at his cousin's house, and they did go to pick up the family and evacuate them. And they told him he could return to pick up some items. But then when he tried to go back, they blocked him off and actually removed him from his vehicle at gunpoint and arrested him. So they told him he could go back and get his things, but then arrested him when he tried to do so. Another thing that I wanted to point out is that the firefighters, the local firefighters, are actually complaining about the runaround that they got. So not only were they delayed at reaching their assignments, but then once they did reach their assignment locations, they were told to stand down and not do anything because they were informed that a federal crew actually was working on it and had it under control. They were supposed to be doing backburns to control the fire. And when these guys, the local guys, went to check on the federal crew, there was no federal crew. It looks like they lit a backburn and left it to spread. And these local guys tried their best to manage it. And he's actually very angry. He said, let's see, that fire was lit with strong winds and no management. It was lit to cause more destruction, in his opinion. And this is the opinion of a local firefighter who said that there were federal crews that were doing backburns and leaving them to escape. Now, if that's not bad enough, there was also a stand down. Now, allegedly, FEMA is telling the firefighters to stand down, and that there was also a local man who offered to give each family $500 for food and hotel, but FEMA is threatening to withhold FEMA disaster relief funds if they accept it. Now, as far as the stand down order goes, I do actually have a radio recording of that.
I got 7 trucks about a mile and a half from downtown that's just in here. Why haven't you sent them? Send them now. We were told to sit here and not move. Damn that go.
So allegedly they had 7 trucks that were ready to go and be on site and battle the fire, but then they were told to sit there and not move. And it also looks like FEMA is withholding funds if people receive any other sort of assistance as well. So if you get $500 from your neighbor to go stay in a hotel, then you're going to miss out on the $700 that FEMA would have given you.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
see that with all of them. They have some kind of rule, like if they're getting support somewhere else, they can't give them funds or they can't spend money on them or something.
Right. All right. And now I also wanted to cover some of the possible motives. I do think it's a multi-pronged motive. There's multifaceted, that there's more than one reason. I'm not trying to fall prey to the just or the single cause fallacy. I do believe that there is multiple factors at play. And one of these could be a data center. So it looks like Brantley County residents met 3 weeks ago to protest a data center at the town hall meeting. This was April 1st. And just a few weeks later, their homes are burned up, and it looks like, they are going to be displaced. And a lot of them don't actually have fire insurance either. Let's see, this one is from a local Facebook group in the Brantley County area. They're searching for answers. Their land is ruined. It looks like, they will be offered pennies on the dollar for these properties like we've seen in other places. I do also have a clip that I want to play. This is from a Republican for Georgia's 12th district. Her name is Tony Branham.
But when I found out about the fires in Brantley County, Clinch County, Appling County, and I know they've been fighting data centers, I looked at my 15-year-old this morning and I said, I have a sticky suspicion about this one because they've packed city council meetings. They're against the data centers. They're against farms sharing aquifers with data centers. And this is not a Republican or Democrat issue. It's a bipartisan issue. But I can tell you now they need to investigate where those fires started, because it's mighty weird that they've been fighting the data centers and now 47 homes in Brantley County have burned down. That was the last time I checked. It's burned down structures. All it takes is for a whole town to be destroyed and someone to come in and offer money and say, we'll give you a whole bunch of money for your land. God forbid that happened. I hope it didn't, but I have this sticky suspicion because they've really been pushing back against it.
Now, she's probably right, except for the ending when she says they're going to offer a whole bunch of money. That's usually not, that would be best case scenario. My understanding is they try not to pay at all.
That's true. Yeah, that's a really big assumption that they're going to get money for this, when we've seen in other cases they get little to nothing. Yeah,
right.
Peanuts.
If they don't have insurance, they don't rebuild, they can't afford to make payments, and so they kind of forfeit their land. I mean,
yeah,
gets repossessed.
Yeah. So of the counties that have plans for data centers, which are Brantley County, Clinch County, Appleland County, and Irwin County, 3 of those have been affected by fires just within the last month. So it's very coincidental. Okay. So now I think we're going to switch gears again, and we're probably going to start talking about radar, if you're ready to go there.
Okay. Right, the drought.
Yeah, the droughts. Yeah, so Florida and Georgia have been in a drought for like the last 2 or 3 months, and allegedly, droughts can be engineered via NextRad. So I've known, via Dane and various other people, that NextRad is to blame for some of this weather modification. So not only can they push air masses away and actually prevent, the rain from getting there, but they can actually dump enough energy into the air to cause a high enough energy density to prevent the water vapor from condensing into water droplets. And they can probably even cause the water droplets to re-vaporize back into vapor. And this isn't done with temperature. It's done with a type of energy density that prevents the molecular bonds. All right. So let's see here. I'm going to play. This is from the College of DuPage radar. And this is from the storm that was approaching during the fire. And then you see all the radars light up and basically evaporate the storm. Very little rain actually reached the fire. And here I'm going to show it again and zoom in. You can see this red and yellow. This is a really strong storm coming with lots of rain, but then the NextRad towers, they light up and the rain clouds just kind of evaporate. And so very little rain actually reached the fire when it looked like they could have been getting a large storm with significant rain, but very little actually reached them. All right, so that radar tower that you saw there was actually coming from Jacksonville, Florida. And this is the Jacksonville, Florida tower as it fired up prior to the arrival of the rains. So the rainstorm hasn't quite reached there yet, but it fires up, like it powers up in anticipation of the rain to like keep it away. And I'm going to show you the result. Here's another loop of the NextRad at Jacksonville. And you can see the line of rain coming in and it just evaporates away once it reaches that inner circle. I think that inner circle is 20 miles and the larger circle is about 50 miles. But yeah, once it got in between those 2 circles, it starts to evaporate. And so it does look like we have proof of NextRad towers evaporating the rain clouds and causing a
And
drought.
that's where the Florida fire was.
Well, no, that's where the Georgia fires were. So here, I'll show you. So here is northern Florida, and this is the southeastern corner of Georgia. And this is where both of those Georgia fires are located as well, within the range of that next red tower. So yeah, the Jacksonville tower can reach where the Georgia fires are.
Okay, got it.
All right. So it looks like we have evidence of a drought being engineered in the southeast of the United States, but allegedly that's not the only place that it's happening, because Iran has also made such claims.
Yeah, so I think this is starting to catch on, but this is all documented. I'll start out with the National Weather Agreement, just because I want to, for just in case someone that is not convinced yet that this is a thing, this is all documented, signed off. This is the, what do we call it?
This is the National Weather Modification Policy Act of 1976.
Right. So there is a policy on how the U.S. conducts weather modification in the U.S. There's also a international law that was signed not too long after this, or right around the same time, called the NMOD Treaty. So after Vietnam, when the U.S. used weather mod to flood like the Ho Chi Minh Trail because it was so successful, there was an agreement to not use this type of warfare, and the U.S. has signed on to this agreement. It seems like most of Western Europe has too, but I just don't think it's being honored. So yeah, I mean, this is all documented, and let me just show what's going on in the Middle East now. Okay, so this is the Kurdistan area of Iraq last year. This is the Darban Bridge, and this is what it looks like today. So it's just a huge change, because do we have confirmation that the infrastructure has been destroyed in the UAE?
The United States radar towers, yes, those are confirmed to be all destroyed.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we have some documents there, but this area has been in a drought for a long time. Iran's been complaining about it for a while. So it's not, at least in Iran, it's not a secret. That's my understanding. They have been coming to meetings saying that that NATO has been depriving Iran of rainfall, and that they know ground-based ionization can be used to encourage condensation, but also discourage condensation and prevent the formation of clouds. Okay, so in 2018, a Brigadier General Gholam Reza Jalali, the head of Iran's civil defense, accused Israel in a press conference in 2018 of manipulating the weather and making the clouds unable to rain over Iran. So he said Israel has stolen Iran's snow. Yeah, so this has been, 2012. I don't think this is a secret, at least in the Middle East. And so let me just show some of the, do we have the flooding stuff? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So now it's flooding in a lot of these areas. And is that like their next option because they can't control the drought? They could maybe cause floods, because this doesn't look good either. Yes, the reservoirs might be full, but that might be okay, but there's flooding going on in a lot of these cities.
Yeah, so the rains have returned to Iran, and this is one of the cities that's actually celebrating the return of the rain. And this looks like an aqueduct that's refilling one of their waterways. And so, yeah, Iran currently is happy about the return of the water, but other areas, so yeah, like Turkey, Iraq, Iran, and elsewhere have had the water return, but in some places it's actually a little too much. So like some of the other places in the Arabian Peninsula, like Kuwait, has been having flooding, and Kuwait does actually border Iran to the west. And as well as Kuwait, we have a couple of other ones here. So this is Sharjah in the UAE. Not sure if I pronounced that right, but yes, the UAE, including Dubai, I believe, is also flooding as well. And then we also have flooding in Muscat, Oman, or Oman, and you can see like just how badly the infrastructure has been flooded here. And those are just three places that I chose. Like most of the Arabian Peninsula has areas that are flooding.
And I haven't been keeping too close a look at the war, but have the US bases in the UAE been destroyed? It seemed like that was kind of the case. So,
Well, so Iran claims to have destroyed all of the United States bases in the Middle East. They have definitely destroyed all of the United States radars. So that includes like the THAAD anti-missile radars, the NEXRAD radars that were also for, weather monitoring, but they could have, destroyed the bases as well, like some of the airstrips and the barracks and things like that. But they have definitely attacked all of the radar infrastructure that we had in the Middle East.
because a lot of those countries are, they're officially allies. Like we're supposed to have a vested interest in their economy and their society and the success of those countries. But maybe did they just lose control of that? Or do you think even the flooding could be intentional? I'm trying to.
I think you made a good point how if they can't make it drought anymore and the rain is returning, then they can just, move it to the opposite extreme and add some cloud seeding and make it flood even more. Now, I don't know why they would want to do that to our allies in the Middle East, but we have seen a lot of cases where, let's say, the Israelis have tried to throw a monkey wrench into the system, right? Like when they shot those missiles at Diego Garcia and tried to blame it on Iran. So, who knows? Like, Israel is a wild card, and it's anybody's guess, honestly. But I do think that that's a plausible explanation.
Or it could be from the long-term manipulation, and then taking that away is not going to necessarily create a balanced weather system. Who knows
We
how that adjustment happens,
we
right?
could be seeing a simple rebound effect from having um, implemented that drought for so long, and now that energy is gone that was causing the drought, and we could be seeing a rebound effect to the rain as well. So yeah, that could be natural, like a natural nature reasserting its balance.
Yeah.
But when people are involved, anything's possible.
And then the desalinization plants that Iran has had to build, I mean, not just Iran, I think most of these countries have had to really invest in that. Maybe like they don't have to rely so much on that, because I know that was one of the strategies, at least I heard, to take out the desalinization plants so that, the people become, put pressure on the people without water.
Yeah, the Middle East is currently dependent on desalination plants, but if there is an influx of fresh water to the area, then the need for those desalination plants would go way down. So yeah, hopefully if the rain returns, they wouldn't need that in the first place.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, how much I mean, can they just switch back to that? And, if they haven't been relying on more natural ways of getting water. And then something else, like someone like me, like art history, I'm obsessed about art history, especially from the Middle East, like the Fertile Crescent. This is an area where some of the first civilizations came about because the area was so good for agriculture, because they had rain, because those rivers were providing so much water. And if you think about it, in the course of world's history, that wasn't too long ago. I mean, 4,000 years ago. I mean, I know like we have this idea, at least my picture in my head of what this area looks like, and it's just all dry and desert because that's what we see now. But like looking back at the past is that's not what this area used to look like, at least from what they wrote about, the depictions they have on the wall. They had like orchards and they grew all sorts of, fruits and plants that require a lot of water, like date palms and things like that. But it does make me think, and some people will get it, some people will think this is crazy, but there's prophecy in scripture that says when the Euphrates dries up, the angels chained under the Euphrates will be released, or they will be unleashed onto the world. And supposedly this area is the Hadifa Dam, that people say that there are the angels or the demons that have their physical bodies are being held there. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but a lot of people do believe the prophecy when the Euphrates dries up, they will be released from their chains. And that isn't, for most people, that's not a good thing. These aren't like good angels. We're talking about Nephilim type beings and unleashing them onto the world. But it'll be interesting to see what happens, in the climate in that area, if it will rebound, what the implications are. But
Right.
that's just where
Yeah.
my head goes because
Well,
I'm into
the
the prophecy.
Euphrates is allegedly at its all-time historical low right now. And so if there are fallen angels imprisoned under the Euphrates River, then we're probably at most risk currently. But with the current amount of rain that's falling, not just in northern Iraq, but southern Iraq and Kuwait and everything, I do think a lot of that is going to drain into the Euphrates River basin. And so we might see a return of the Euphrates River just in time.
Yeah,
And
would be
yeah.
it'll be interesting.
Yeah. And that area, actually, the Fertile Crescent is pretty much the same area as the Garden of Eden. And it did used to be a very green, lush area. And if the rains continue like they are, it could return to that.
Right. Babylon is right there in Iraq, I think right where Baghdad is, or very close to where Baghdad is.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's just kind of crazy to imagine that being like a very green and lush area because it's been so long. But I don't understand like the long-term climate change. I know it changes in different cycles, but yeah, it just made me think about like the overall change of the area and how that might affect a lot of things, not just prophecy, but their economy and,
Oh, yeah. Well, the agriculture, the economy, like I was just reading this comment here. It says Iran was trying to figure out how to move 10 million people because of lack of water, which has been cut off for years. And yes, I think that was the city of Tehran itself was
Mhm.
facing a logistic nightmare of moving 10 million people because there was no water. So, yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's a huge implication.
yeah. So if the water is returning, then that's no longer an issue. And the geopolitical strategic importance of desalinization plants will also decrease in the area as well if the rains continue.
Yeah. I haven't kept too much up with the comments, but I did, before we wrap up, I did want to kind of like pat ourselves on the back, not just the both of us, but everyone watching that has been supporting our message. It seems like this is starting to become more common knowledge. I hear it more on like Redacted, Tucker Carlson. I mean, technically the alt media, but like the biggest of the alt media. And then also Congress has been talking about it. So it is at, I think, getting to the mainstream level, and it's not conspiracy anymore. I mean, maybe some people still think that the dues are conspiracy, but I feel a huge shift recently from that being crazy to being accepted. And that goes for the weather modification. I don't think I don't know, maybe it's just I'm in this bubble So it seems like people are accepting it, but I do think there's a larger scale, shift, and that's good. We need that to happen. We need more people to come to the realization that this is real and it's causing these problems.
It's refreshing to see so many people pick up on this idea of, next radar towers actually manipulating the weather. And this Iran example is probably the best one that I think that we've had yet as far as waking up the mainstream. And so this one actually is getting some traction, and I'm glad to see that. Not only that, but people are also starting to catch on to directed energy weapons again. So I've been seeing that story make the rounds once again. So it's good to see
Yeah.
people be aware.
I mean, I've heard it on Redacted, Jimmy Dore. I'm not quite sure Fox News. I don't know if it'll ever get to that level, but I think at this point, the strength of those two are equal. They're not like, it's not unfair. I think the messaging coming from the alt is just as strong as the mainstream, but I don't know if that's just me.
I agree.
Prophecies written to manifest those creatory conditions and events with clip. Yeah, I know. I'm aware of that. I'm not afraid of the angels being unleashed. I'm very interested in learning about what these prophecies are and what people today are claiming to have heard and seen. There are people that said that they have like heard the chains of the angels locked down there. I don't know if I believe that. I don't know, but
Okay.
I think if you do buy into the prophecy, this kind of throws a wrench into that.
Yeah. When I first read this comment, I didn't apply it specifically to that prophecy, but like basically biblical prophecy in general. And it does seem like they are trying to force this idea in the collective mind that it's occurring now. So whether it is time or not, they're trying to make us think that it is. And there is a little bit of, I guess, magic in that, because if they can trick the collective consciousness, the conscious, into believing that it's occurring, then
They can make it happen.
that revelation of the method or predictive programming has a little bit of conscious co-creation with the collective. And so it does make it more likely to occur. Although I do think that, yes, when it comes to these biblical prophecies, they are trying to artificially instigate or implement those stories.
Yeah, I don't believe that's how it works. Yeah, I don't think that's how it works, but they'll definitely try to maybe convince people that this is happening.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else you wanted me to read or?
I just there was a lot of comments this time that I missed, and I just happened to catch a few. Let's see here. Let's see. They're calling this year's El Nino a super El Nino, and there is a cycle every year or two. So like we'll have an El Nino, and then we'll have a mid-year, and then we have a La Nina, and then we have a mid-year, and then we have an El Nino. And I think 24, 25 was kind of one of those in-between years, and now 26 is going to be an El Nino, which is going to be warmer waters in the southern Pacific, South Central Pacific. We're going to have like warmer water, and that's going to affect the hurricane season in both the Pacific and the Atlantic. So they're expecting an exaggerated hurricane season this year, but I think they also use that El Nino excuse to sprinkle a little bit extra on top. So like when it comes to, like things, once again, the NextRad towers, or
Atmospheric rivers.
Yeah, atmospheric rivers, heat domes, things like that. I think we could see not just increased hurricane activity, but we're going to see a lot more heat domes and atmospheric rivers this year. And it's not going to be because of El Nino.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what the difference between the El Nino and El Nina and all these terms. I don't know if they're meant to be fully understood. Like, I don't know what this one means for the weather here. Right? I mean, do some people know what that means? Like, oh, it's El Nino, so that means this is going to happen. I don't.
No, it's not common knowledge, I would say. But yes, I would say during El Nino years, I would expect warmer temperatures. I would expect a wetter climate on the West
Northern.
Coast and a drier, hotter climate, say for the Midwest. So, like in my area, I'm probably going to see more heat domes, more drought, and possibly fires. We don't have a history of fires here. So, if that ever does happen, then I'm going to be the first one to say it's suspicious because this area where I grew up in, the northern Midwest, Great Lakes area, it's basically swampland, and it's always humid year round, except in the winter when it's below zero. But other than that, it's humid. And if we ever have a drought with fires, then I'm going to be the first one to call BS.
Mhm. I mean, it doesn't seem to uh, discourage them. I mean, some of the most humid, wettest areas are being burned. Like I think the Florida one, is it on the actual, like where the sawgrass is?
Yeah,
We've
that's
seen fires
actually
on, and I said marsh, and a lot of people correct. It's not a marsh. It's a wetland. No, and I've been there. It's clear water where the sawgrass are. So the sawgrass collects
yeah.
all the debris.
Hmm.
Um, what is that word? The Everglades. Yeah, the Everglades. They burn the Everglades, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah, they
literally
do.
on water.
It's literally on the water. Yeah. And a lot of places, there's like it's the moss and the grass and everything kind of almost make this like sod that floats on top of the water. And so I've seen people walking on top of this. It looks like grass, but it acts like a water bed, because it's a thin layer of like plant material that you're actually walking on.
Yeah, I mean, something I'm gonna put out there, and some people are gonna not like this, but it does seem like bodies of water is somehow attracting this energy. And I first caught on to this in on Oahu, Pearl City, the marsh area. So of all the island, the marsh was on fire, like on literally on the water, because there's marshland on Oahu. And that just like how could that part catch fire? And
Right.
I feel like it's something about that type of level of water is like attracting it or something, maybe like a side effect of the other energy, or it kind of makes me think that.
Water has certain properties. It's actually more conductive than the great majority of like rock, and soil and stuff that you would find in the ground. So water is usually going to be the most conductive part. So if there is groundwater surrounded by like bedrock, it's usually going to take a path through the water, whether it be lightning, solar flares, whatever it is. It's that conductive, electrically charged energy is going to most likely favor
Travel.
water. Yeah, it's going to favor the water.
How far are the Georgia fires from the Florida one? Is it the Everglades on fire
Well,
now or
well,
not?
so just west of Miami so a lot of there's like over 17 fires in Georgia and Florida combined. So there is like kind of sprinkled all over the place. But that big fire in Florida is just west of Miami in the Everglades.
Which one started first, Georgia or Florida, or
I think
same
that
time?
I'm pretty sure that the Georgia fire did. I have the stats
Started
right here.
first.
Let me see here. So let's see. That was April 20th. That was April 18th. And this one was just a few days ago. So this Florida fire is actually new.
Okay, so that happened after.
Hmm.
I don't know. Sometimes it feels like, they do these events, but then there are these side effect fires that just don't make sense. I'm kind of
Yeah. And
seeing that.
they could be incidental fires. Like, let's say that instead of like microwave laser or something, they wanted to direct just plasma, like interplanetary plasma or magnetosphere plasma, or even plasma from the ionosphere. If they wanted to direct that, then they could actually use HARP, you know what I mean, to punch holes in the ionosphere and allow it to have a path down. But the way that plasma flows isn't in a straight line like a laser. It does take branches, just like the lightning, like
It
a
kind of
lightning bolt.
falls like that, right? Kind of.
Yeah, it zigzags and it branches and things like that. And so typical plasma behavior is not going to act like your average like
Like
laser
a
beam or
laser.
anything. So you might have branches that branch off that actually hit stuff and strike things that are unintended targets. That's entirely possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think that's gonna do it. Is there anything else?
Let's see here. So, I mean, people seem to know it's the Doppler radar. They say it smells to high heaven. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So I did mention this fallacy that I didn't want to fall victim to. So he says, remember, Shane, it's not either or, it's both and more. It's amplified nature for plausible cause we're dealing with. And so, yeah, that's a logical fallacy. It's called the single cause fallacy, is to assume that some of any particular occurrence has a singular cause, when a lot of times in reality, it's more complicated and there's usually more than one factor.
Yeah. And I really think the fire phenomena is there's a number of different things going on. My strong
Right.
opinion, and they mix it up.
Yeah, even Lahaina, for example, there were down power lines that sparked the grass. There was points of arson, like there was almost every single way to ignite a fire did occur in Lahaina.
And then the ground being the source.
And in some cases, it does look like the energy could be coming up from the ground. Now, as I did talk to Larry Holm, who was a NASA employee who did work with some plasmas, and he talks about collimated plasma. And there is a way to direct a charge gradient to, like, so you could position a charge gradient over a certain area. And let's say it's a large area of positive charge in the atmosphere. It's going to elicit a pull or attraction of the electrons in the ground. And so, yes, the energy will come out of the ground, but the cause or attractor could actually still be located in the atmosphere.
Above ground.
Yes, above ground.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say which direction it's traveling, but yes, it could go either way. Yeah.
Right.
It's
might
both
require
and more.
both.
Yeah, it's not either or, it's both and more.
So below,
as above, so below.
Above, so below.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that applies to a lot of what we talk about.
Yeah.
With these things.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna close it out there. So thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, please subscribe, comment, share this video. Yeah, a lot more people actually tuned in. So I'm glad that you guys were here live. And we have a membership program too. So if you want to support us on a monthly basis, you can join our membership program. And the second level gets you access to the Telegram chat that Shane and I are in. And then both levels will give your comments priority. So they'll come up on our studio first and we reply to those first. And oh yeah, my channel did get remonetized. So it was demonetized about 2 weeks ago. And then I was able to appeal and they did reverse it. So thank you guys for your support. I know a lot of people were like, that's BS, but it's just kind of part of being on this platform. I'm not the only one that had that happen too. So yeah, I guess that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for being here. And then I'll plan for next week, Monday, but I don't know. I don't have a topic in mind. So I'm not sure. I have to come up with something good. But if I don't see you guys Monday, I'll have something later in the week. So yeah, we'll see you all soon. Bye.
They piece it together. They ask why every hidden corner